And they'd be like, yay, it's working. Or boo, it's not. I like the topics you've picked.
I wasn't sure if you'd had a chance to look through them or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's not news at all to most people, I don't think. But there's something intriguing about proof. Does that make sense? Just as a general statement?
Yes, it makes sense as a general statement. I'm just like, the gears are slowly trying to crank to see how you're applying it to this topic. So yeah, I'm creating intrigue. That's well, let me rephrase. I think that I'm creating intrigue.
Building suspense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a fog of suspense around us all.
I don't even know how you would try to introduce it other than just being blunt, right? Like one of the things that I was thinking about, one of the things I was thinking about is how would you lead into it in a way that's not just "I told you so," and I haven't been able to come up with a good,
That's where you should start with "I told you so." Can I point out the misogyny in one of these bullet points?
Certainly.
So I think it's the third bullet point, and it talks about the three hosts, and it lists three hosts. The two men are listed by their surname only, but the female host is listed by her first and surname. Okay, so it would be given and surname instead of just her surname, like you would a man. And I've noticed that that's a thing, and I think we've talked about that here. But I think that was something that happened during the 2016 election. They always called Hillary Hillary instead of Clinton, and they always called Trump Trump instead of Donald Trump or Donald. But that's just a thing that I've noticed, and so I've tried to make it a habit, make it first nature to call women by their surnames.
I don't know that I've attempted to do anything specific there in my interactions, but I don't typically call people by their surnames either.
Right, but you're not writing about them. You're not referring to them. Well, when talking about political folks, I can't think. I don't recall. Like at this point, if you say, "Hey, does Jesse do that thing where," and maybe misogynist is a little bit of an overstatement, but does Jesse do that thing where he refers to men by their surnames and women by their given name at some point? And I couldn't say that you do.
And I think, when thinking back to the Clinton-Trump campaigns, I typically go with surnames there.
Yeah. And it's a little bit more I can see how someone might make the argument that it's a little more difficult since Clinton's husband was also Clinton and was the president of the United States for 8 years.
Yeah, but I feel like if you pay attention to context, you can tell who I'm talking about, right? And I do often do that thing where I'll say former President Clinton when I reference him, just because typically with any former president, you say former president.
Right.
The only one that I tend to avoid that with, as far as fully addressing the former president by their name, is with the previous administration, with Trump's administration.
Yes. We have to bleep out those. We're gonna have to bleep these out, aren't we?
Well, it's one of those things that, I get the fun joke side of it for sure. I enjoy it, and it's part of why I like how Colbert has done it. But I also, there's a certain Voldemort-esque thing where it's you're giving too much power to the word as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm torn. I appreciate the humor side of it, but if I'm talking about it in just normal context, then I think it makes more sense just to leave it. If we were to pick an episode where I bleep the episode for fun, that's one thing, right? Like we did the one.
Like we did, yeah.
Yeah. But if it's not the focus of an episode, then I think it makes more sense just to let it go.
I'm on board with that. I agree with that, because I think I like that you like the pop culture reference of referring to him as similarly to Voldemort. But yeah, because when you
there's so many
stigmatize
parallels.
a thing, when you stigmatize something, you do give it power that it shouldn't have.
So since we've teased the topic at least enough to build some suspense, I think I'm going to jump to the other topic real quick and then come back to it just to help build it a little bit further. I don't have much on this one. It's just one of those things where this is an outlet for me to vent as well. And so why not? And house hunting absolutely sucks. and it's not.
Yeah, it does.
It's because like there's one house that we went and looked at that I loved the layout, loved the room sizes and everything else. The location I don't love as much, and the people pricing it are out of their fucking mind. And so,
where's the location? Or
so that's in the Pelham area, in the Indian Village, Indian Springs, whichever one that is. Yeah. And then there's another house that we looked at off of Shades Crest that we actually put an offer in, and a different offer was accepted. And that one, we'll wait and see whether it went higher than I think it did. But like that one was one of those where I don't know if I'm happy or disappointed or just meh, you know. So it's just the full range of I hate house hunting.
Yeah, well, I believe the process of buying a house is the second most stressful thing you can do in, middle class American life.
Yeah, I could see that. And the biggest thing for me really isn't so much that as much as it is people are out of their minds. I mean,
yeah, this market's bonkers, and it is out of control of the corruption. Again, we're back to corruption.
Yeah, it's I mean, I can make logical arguments for some things that I see.
No,
I can.
No, you can't.
For some of the things that I see, I can at least say I understand how they arrived at that ill-begotten conclusion, right? But there are a lot of things that I see that it's like, what are you smoking to come up with that number?
Well, there was a piece on NPR recently, maybe this week or last, and right now it's either 1/4 or 1/3 of home purchases are being paid for by cash.
That, I mean, I don't have any data to dispute that. So
that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to jump to.
I part of it is like, why is this happening? But sticking a wet finger in the air, it's like there's a lot of homes that are being purchased by corporations. Like they're getting into the home buying business because, for example, if you buy, well, maybe I'll come back to this because I need to refresh. I need to go back and read some things to refresh my memory for the process of what's happening here. But it's so tricky.
One of the things that we have noticed is there are a few homes that we've looked at that it's very obvious that they did some work with a very low quality of material in general, and are attempting to sell quickly, and obviously flipping, trying to flip houses, and then trying to sell and pricing it at a point that's just not really what it's worth at all, in an attempt to drive values up in the market to be able to continue to do the same thing. Does that make sense? I don't know if I quite explained it the way that...
No, it does. And that's... So, the thing that I was referring to was a similar sort of thing where the corporations are doing this to drive up prices, and that's... I needed to go back and look at some of the stuff that I'd read about this, and because it's not... I don't feel like I can re-articulate it appropriately.
So here's an example firsthand. The house I was talking about that we liked in the Indian Springs or Indian Village, whichever one it is, that area, they're pricing it like it's new construction. And they're quick on their arguments of, we're going to flip 3 or 4 more houses this year in this neighborhood. Our goal is to continue to buy and resell houses in this neighborhood and raise value, which sounds great. But one, you're attempting to sell a pipe dream because it hadn't happened yet. 2, the quality of workmanship put into the house that we saw, there's no way in hell you're following through with your disillusion scheme, or at least not in a way that's going to drive values up enough. So, like, if the quality of work was better, significantly better, maybe I would buy into your BS argument. Now, I mean, this is me, so I wouldn't. But still, right? Like, there's at least okay, based on the quality of work, based on the quality of materials, you are at least in this for whatever vision you have in mind. But based on what I saw and the quality of work, it's like, you're fucking half-assed all of that. Why would I think you can raise values, $80,000 above what it should sell for? But that's a whole different tangent. I had to vent a little bit. And a lot of it is that inventory is low. This is the time of year where inventory starts to generally get better. So I'm hoping we'll start seeing a few more things that are of interest and maybe less stupidity, but I'm not hopeful for the latter part there.
I was looking at TikTok, and this guy who is a home inspector, he said, "This is the worst home I've ever seen." Like, it was bonkers. He opened the door, and there was a bar, like a homemade, like a bar, like DIY bar, 8 inches from the door. It was, there was all sorts of bad things. And their living room had a small stage. There's a hot tub. Like, they had, oh my gosh, it's so much stuff. But I went into the comments, and I just saw, like, yeah, you're at a swingers house. And it was like, yeah, they're at a swingers house.
It does sound like it.
Somebody hosts some parties of that nature.
So now that we've teased and diverted the conversation, and I guess it's time to finally come back to it. 2 different articles kind of piqued my interest, and both are related to the Dominion voting systems lawsuits against Fox News. And news, obviously, is in quotes in this particular instance, and most others anyway. But, anyone who has paid attention in general for years at this point has seen pretty clearly a warping of the actual information between the opinion shows or the analyst shows or the entertainment shows, take your pick for how you want to describe them, and the actual news reporting that is occasionally done somewhere or another through the organization, as opposed to, in a broader sense, the general news reporting and facts available across the board. With the discovery process and the lawsuit, a number of communications that have would not have been made public are available, such as group texts and messages among these different hosts of the opinion or entertainment shows, and other documents and internal communications and everything else, right? Like any legal case, you tend to generate a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's called discovery, right?
Yes, it is. And it's one thing to look at it from the outside and say, I know they're not that stupid. Or I really hope they're not that stupid, or however you want to view a particular group. It's an
Maybe why does it seem that they're this stupid?
Yeah. I mean, and then there's an entirely different thing when you can look at facts and evidence and say, my God, here's proof finally. Or,
Or here's a reasonable explanation for this seemingly unreasonable behavior.
Yes. And so obviously both pieces will be linked. One is by The Atlantic, one is by NPR. Generally speaking, Fox saw ratings and viewership and audience engagement and all go down when reporting facts, and intentionally provided the narrative that their viewers wanted in order to bring ratings up and bring engagement and audience participation up, and not lose people to even more extreme news sources. News sources in that case very much being in quotations. And it's mind-boggling, like in multiple ways. But number one, if you have any responsibility for reporting news, any appearance of it in any way, shape, fashion, or form, how can this be acceptable? That's my first question, just full stop. And two, how can you internally call all these conspiracy theories and the things that you're hearing BS and laugh at it and knowingly understand that there's no truth or fact or even supposition that this thing is remotely close to being accurate, and still turn around and go on air and act like it's fact? Like I don't understand how that's not a complete breach of any level of ethical behavior. And the kicker is that it is. It's completely a breach. It's unethical from top to bottom. That's the point. But how is that then not punishable? And it is worth noting that we're in the process of a legal case to determine whether that's factual and subsequently punishable. So punishment might still be coming, but how is it not more than just a civil, defamation case? There's a lot to unpack there, I know.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. We've been asking this question since we started.
And on top of it, this perfectly illustrates how I don't remember exactly how it's been referenced in other articles, but it's the Fox News brain rot or whatever it is that's been categorized, where many people have talked about relationships being strained and subsequently falling apart because of family members or other loved ones being so engrossed and engaged in what Fox has reported as fact that they no longer believe reality. And I mean, I don't see how it can be anything other than intentional harm with malicious intent, or maybe the better way to phrase it, harm with malicious intent.
Yeah. When you get to a certain level, I wonder, it's how many compromises did you get there? Or how much did you compromise to get there to the point where you'll do anything for the money?
Well, and that's, if we actually go back to the articles, that is very obviously what happened. I think the part that I found most intriguing was that there was a young correspondent who saw the former president tweet about election fraud and apparently referenced a couple of the Fox News show hosts. I think it was Carlson and Dobbs directly, and called him on it. Intentionally said nothing had been found. And instead of any level of fact-checking or reporting within the scope of, we've seen all of this information and we're providing actual facts to you, the immediate response was, I hope she's fired. Get her fired. Why is she still here? And it's like, wow. Seriously? In that kind of environment, I would absolutely hope that I would be fired then and go to work for any other agency that actually wants to report news. Assuming, of course, that I was there to report news and not spew conspiracy theories or gain ratings.
So it's interesting to me, where do the people, I was going to say, one has come to mind, but where do the people who are conservative for the United States go if they want to preserve some level of integrity about the truth?
You mean as an end consumer or as a journalist or reporter?
As a journalist. I was thinking as a journalist.
I'm not sure specifically how I would answer that one. I think every organization, to an extent, has some inherent level of bias based on the culture and philosophy of the organization. I mean, it's just a fairly conservative work environment is going to generally attract fairly conservative people. A generally forward-thinking or liberal-leaning environment is going to attract those types of individuals as well. I don't think you can get away from some level of bias one way or another. I think instead the point is, where is it clearly understood what is fact and reporting on fact versus what is analysis? And that's where I have trouble with it, because most of the predominant platforms blur the lines quite a bit. The ones that come to mind that have done a really good job of attempting to make it clear are written publications such as Politico. NPR, I think, generally does a pretty good job of it. The Atlantic, I've been somewhat surprised by at times, and then at times it's more of an opinion piece with some facts sprinkled in, so it can be tough to tell for sure. I do like their writing in general, but I will call them out on not being overly clear a lot of times what is analytical versus what is fact. So all that to say, I don't really know for sure.
Yeah, it's one person who came to mind was S.E. Cupp. She was a pundit. She was fairly progressive for being Republican, and she, with the Trump era politics or Trump hijacking the Republican Party, she seems to have, like a number of Republicans started to distance herself from the party.
I saw a headline. I didn't follow the article. Apparently, there's someone who is potentially going to prepare a presidential nomination bid that is, the way the headline was written was they were attempting to play a little bit with basically renouncing Trump-type extremism as a Republican. I don't have any other details, and I'll go back and look. That may be something that we follow up. The only reason I even mention it is it feels like there's a shift in the way the Republican Party is not necessarily rushing to endorse Trump's 2024 bid, but I don't know if that's just kind of early waiting and seeing what kind of momentum builds, or if it's actually we're not real sure how to approach this yet, and until there's a candidate that is outspoken that we can kind of rally behind, that's it. We're just going to continue to be quiet kind of feeling. I don't know. It just, there's an odd feeling to the Republican Party at the moment with regard to whether there's going to be a fracturing and a distancing of bits and pieces, or if it's just quiet because there's not a candidate that they're wanting to lump everything behind. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My mind immediately went to, so you don't think they want to support, endorse Ron DeSantis?
I'm not sure. I feel like if he were to say he was running for president, I feel like the party would try to rally behind him at the moment.
He's just another. He's another.
He's Trump with a little bit less prickly demeanor.
Yeah.
He's actually
become
worse.
More and more Trump-like.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, he's worse than Trump because he's actually coherent and has a plan.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah.
I didn't say it was a good plan.
I was going to say he's a little more dangerous, maybe, but he's doing things, but he doesn't really talk about policy.
Well, I mean, you can tell from what he's been doing that his policy is basically maintain power for those in power and squash anything that's not the status quo.
Yeah, fair enough.
Tends to be the Republican playbook anymore, from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm. They've gone from opposition politics to like whatever they can to maintain power by any means necessary.
So the outside of I kind of want to continue bashing the Republican Party, to be honest, but I don't think that serves anybody any good. It's one of those things where just show me something other than what I'm saying, and maybe I'll take it at face value. But until then, you're not doing anything but trying to maintain power, and I want to call you out on it over and over and over, but I'm kind of tired of doing so. Just like I'm tired of calling out Fox News for not being news. There's a point where all of it just feels ridiculous at a level that it's like, how do you still have any kind of support? And I think that's the tiring part. Because I can understand entertainment shows garnering an audience that doesn't care about the difference between fact and fiction and raking in money. What I can't understand is an organization that supposedly has a news facet to it, not reporting on actual facts in the news.
Right. That's the irony.
Yeah.
Like I think we've talked about like the whole, to be conservative, you have to live you have to live with a certain level of irony that's higher than, I want to say normal, but yeah, it's higher than. There's probably a clever way to come up with this.
Yeah, probably, but I'm at a blank too. It's kind of like I said, it's one thing to be able to point to it and say, I promise you that's not fact. It's a whole nother thing when you see how far a group of people will go to not care about fact and have it documented. Like it's unequivocally provable. And yet they're going to continue to deny it and claim whatever arguments they can claim to attempt to spin it as anything but. When do you finally, just as a person, say, look, I can't believe your lies anymore. It's just too apparent. And I guess that's the $1 million question is, can people who are that entrenched in wanting to believe the lies actually finally reach a point where they can't believe the lies anymore because of how clearly documented it is that it's false? Or can they continue to disillusion themselves in perpetuity?
I don't know.
And, a large part of me thinks that people can disillusion themselves until death without a problem.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Just to bring a couple of snippets in, just to kind of see if there's any other conversation around them. One of the things out of the NPR article, and I'm going to read a particular quote that sums it up really well, is as follows. Fox News executives purged senior journalists who were fixated on reflecting the facts. Pause just to make sure that sinks in.
One more time, please.
Fox News executives purged senior journalists who were fixated on reflecting the facts. They got rid of people who wanted to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And it goes on to say, in a note to the network's top publicity executive, Fox News CEO Scott denounced Salmon, the former Washington managing editor, and wrote Salmon did not understand the impact to the brand and the arrogance in projecting Arizona for Biden, saying it was Salmon's job to protect the brand. So, very clearly, people who were able to make decisions at Fox News didn't care about reporting facts and only cared about the brand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When did news become a brand? And obviously that's not what they're referring to. They're referring to Fox. But
yeah,
you have news in the title. It bites, you know. I don't have any even far-flung stretching way of trying to be able to say this is okay. Because it's not. It's unequivocally immoral and unethical. And I hope they don't get away with it.
It's gonna take a lot. Because right now there's a lot of, you know, this is not the only thing. This is, you know, we keep talking about all sorts of different examples of the immoral, the unethical taking root in our society and culture. And this is just another example of that. And there's so much momentum for it that it's going to take quite a lot to stop it and turn things around.
Yeah, I'm actually at a blank on where to take it from there. It's like there's so much about this that I just can't wrap my head around. Like, how can it be so egregious and people still want to believe the lie? You know, I don't get that.
Or even that they believe that it's not a lie.
I'm sure I don't know. You know, I'm just at a loss at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew somebody like Tucker Carlson was scum of the earth, and this just reaffirms that to an order of magnitude greater than I even imagined. You know,
which is, I'm sorry, but I thought that was Ben Shapiro's title.
Close enough. I don't know. I don't know if I would give it to Shapiro over Carlson or not, because obviously, I don't know if you read through the articles completely, but like Carlson was the one calling for the journalist's head, the one that fact checked him or you know responded on Twitter. Like apparently Carlson was immediately the one who wanted her fired.
Jeez, I didn't read that part yet,
and it just. I don't. I guess the reason I struggle so much with it, I can play devil's advocate without a problem. I can argue viewpoints I don't believe, no problem. But I can't sit here and tell you like intentionally misleading information with a straight face.
That's because nobody's bought you and is paying, you know, millions of dollars for you to do it.
Maybe. I mean,
the thing is, it's like, why doesn't everybody
let's put it to the test. Somebody pay me $1 billion and I will attempt to spread whatever statements you want me to say and see if it comes across as sincere. Open challenge to whatever group, company, agency, person, whatever. Doesn't matter. $1 billion. Let's try it out.
You see where I'm getting? It's like at this point, the money and the power and the money are more important than anything. That's it.
And I get that from a.
Oh, I know you do.
You know, from a theoretical, conceptual standpoint, it's tough to understand when you aren't in that position. I think is what it comes down to. Like if there's no if there's no level of even coming close to having that type of feeling or situation, it's tough to imagine it in a way that makes it seem logical. Because right now it just seems so far-fetched. Like no, of course I'm not going to say that. I don't care how much you pay me. But I'm not faced with like a briefcase of cash. So...
Well, I was going to say he also didn't go to work one day as a normal dude, and they said, "Hey, here's a contract for multi-million-dollar contract for you to do this." No, he built his way up there. Part of it was like he was doing his own thing, or doing a thing that he believed in, and it eventually got him to where he is. And there was a lot of money that lubricated the way. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work, or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.